Welcome to Kick It Up a Notch, hosted by Megan and Jenny. We're here to bring you lively conversations, inspiring stories, and a little bit of everything in between. Whether it's life, business, or just a good laugh, we're turning up the energy and diving into what makes life extraordinary. Let's kick it up a notch. Welcome to another episode of Kick It Up a Notch. I'm Megan Thomas, and I am not here again with my amazing co-host, Jenny McBride. She is taking care of some very important things, but we are realtors, entrepreneurs, and all around pretty fun gals. We're so glad to have you back for another episode. Make sure you check out our last episode and follow, like, and subscribe. Today, I am kicking it up a notch with Lindsay Miller. She graduated with her master's from social work from USI in 2016. Lindsay is currently a behavior specialist for EVSC at the middle school level. She loves teaching them how to navigate big emotions, to make good choices, to love who they're growing up to, who they're growing to be, and how not to sweat the small stuff. Before that, she was a therapist at the United Methodist Youth Home. She has spent her career working with at-risk youth and families. She is hip to all these new kids' generational lingo. I don't understand most of the things she posts on her social media, so that's how I have to know it's what the cool kids are saying. And she is the first person to ever call me MT, and I never thought all these years later it would stick and I'd still be getting called by MT, but everyone, by everyone and not just you. So thank you, Lindsay, for that. You are my grandmother Willow from Pocahontas. That's how I explain talking with Lindsay, because she's so down to earth. And when everyone was stressing out in school, she was like, it's going to be fine. And you've just always been such a light. So it makes total sense what you're doing. So first off, it's Social Worker Appreciation Month. Thank you for all you do, and happy Social Worker Month.
Thank you.
So let's start with, we had 3 Megans in our small, tiny cohort of 12 people in our master's class at USI, and you decided to call me MT for Megan Thomas. I think you had nicknames for everyone.
Yes, sounds about right.
And that's what stuck. So what got you interested in becoming a social worker? Did you know that's always what you wanted to do?
Okay, so when I was a kid, I loved Delilah on 104 FM, and in my mind,
Yes.
this is really my story. In my mind, I loved her calming voice, and she was like a radio therapist. She's not, but in my child's mind, she helped people solve problems.
I could see
People
that.
would call in, and she would find the most perfect song for them. I was like, I want to be that. And then I just started watching shows, and I was like, I want to be that. I want to be in my chair with a clipboard being a therapist. And I took the long way to get here. I started out after high school with interior design and still felt like, okay, I want to do something to help people. So went back to school, took the long road, and started volunteering. And my first volunteer experience was when I think I was about 20 years old at the Boys and Girls Club. And I just fell in love with those kids and knew I needed to, that's where my passion was. So a few degrees later, I wound up getting my master's in social work, and I have always worked with kids for the most part. And I do feel this is my calling. So I took the long way here, but glad to be here finally.
Delilah.
Yep.
I totally forgot about Delilah on 104.1. I would
love
listen to her
her.
growing up at night, like falling asleep, like to all those old school songs she would play. And it'd be like, so-and-so celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. I'm going to play this song for you. Or someone's going through a heartbreak. That was fantastic. She was very much kind of like a comfort. Yeah. Listen, I could so totally see you still doing that someday. You have the perfect personality to meet Delilah. And I 100% agree with you that you are on the path you were meant to be on. You connect with these kids, you just know how to relate to them, and it just seems so effortless and easy. I definitely could see them not saying like, oh, like, those is my therapist. Like, they see you as like more than that, I think, as someone who can really, really change people's lives. I truly believe that. You said all the degrees. What all degrees do you have? I didn't realize you had taken such a long
So,
path to get to social work.
yeah. So I have a degree in interior design, and then I decided I want to do more. I don't want to stop there. So I went back to college and got a bachelor's in global leadership, which is people think I'm like traveling the world, but I'm not. It's just a leadership degree. And again, I wanted to do more. And that was about the time that I realized I want to do something in the social service sector. So I'm inching my way to social work. And then I went and got my master's in public service administration
Ooh.
and still growing and learning about what I want to do. I realized that wasn't going to get me what I wanted. So then I got another master's in social work.
Okay.
And I had to draw the line after that because clinicals took away my whole life.
Yeah.
Worth it, but I was ready to get to work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That
I
was
love school. I
something else.
love college. If I could get paid to just go to college and rack up like 25 degrees, I would be happy as a clam.
That is interesting. I would like to psychologically dive into that and understand. Like, I love learning, but I don't love the school side of learning.
I know.
I do not love that. So, oh shoot, what was I going to say about that? What was it? That's amazing. So, I'm going to assume that those 2 degrees that you got were getting you closer to social work. You were able to take some knowledge and lessons learned from those 2 degrees and put them in with social work, I'm sure.
Yes.
Very much so, because you were getting closer each step, working more and more with people.
Yeah. So I have the agency I worked for when I was a therapist was a nonprofit. So I had a lot of knowledge about how nonprofits work. And I even still use parts of my interior design degree in my current role, even down to like how I set my room up, the lighting, um, what brings about a calming space for someone, how we feel and interact in spaces that we're in with just the decoration, paint colors, everything.
That is fascinating. I didn't even connect those together, but that makes
Yeah.
total sense.
Yep.
I'm so jealous right now. Your lighting is so much better than mine. And I don't think I have to sit this close to it, but I'm so nervous. Okay, sidetrack. I know it's going to be so much of my face, and then yours is going to be good. So I need to position myself. When you said your first volunteering was at the Boys and Girls Club, what clicked for you? What was an experience or aha that you're like, yeah, this is exactly what I need to be doing?
I never thought I would work with kids.
Really?
Yes, that was not in my trajectory at all.
That's
But
crazy.
I worked with those kids and they were so sweet. They loved to be there. They loved just connecting with people. And I looked forward to going there I think it was every week that I went. I taught an art class and then I also taught a program called Smart Girls. And it was about like teaching middle school girl. I know I've come full circle. Teaching middle school girls about like changing bodies and friendships, healthy
That's
relationships.
such an important class with those
Um,
topics.
and I just was like, wow, these little girls have so much to say. And it was just neat. I learned more from them. And I've never stopped working with kids.
I cannot believe that is not something you did not know you always wanted to work with because, like I said, it comes so naturally when you are around kids for you. And you just think that's what you'll always do. You don't want to go to adults.
Oh, yeah. Kids are way better to work with. Sorry.
So were you always
I like working with their families too, but kids are more pliable. They're more willing to learn things. Adults, we're set in our ways. We think we know it all. And sometimes life has gotten to us and put us in places or positions that kids haven't had to be in yet. And kids are just funnier and cooler.
has it always so you're currently at the middle school level. What is kind of your niche range of kid that you like? So the United Methodist Youth Home, it
I
was kind of all over from high
Yeah,
school
they
to
were more high school aged. We had a few middle schoolers there, but mostly high school. And I enjoyed working with high schoolers. It's like they were mature enough to grasp therapeutic concepts, but still little kids at heart. And a lot of people don't like working with middle schoolers, and I understand why. They're weird. They're there's a lot going on. They're changing. They're like one day they act like a little kid, and then the next day they think they're grown. And sometimes that changes throughout the day. You never know what you're gonna get. The hormones, it's a lot.
They're weird.
They are. They say weird stuff, they do weird stuff, but you know what? I have to tell myself their brain cells are not done cooking. There's there's still part of their brain that's not developed yet. So I'm like, okay, they're doing what they know. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
This is why you're my grandmother Willow. Like, it's just so honest and true in the most loving way. Like, I don't know if you could seriously, I never want to see you mad at anyone because I feel like it would just be like, bless your heart, you need to go cook your yeast rolls some more, something like that. I feel like it would be like the sweetest insult ever that you could like never really hurt someone's feelings.
Well, I intentionally do not let the kids see my anger. Sometimes I'll have to use my I feel statements, but I feel frustrated when people don't listen. And I recently had an 8th grade boy laugh at me when I called him into my room and I was getting on him because he was acting up in the classroom. And he just kept laughing. I was like, what is going on? He's like, I'm sorry, Miss Miller. I've just never seen you mad before and I don't know what to do. I was like, I'm not mad. I'm frustrated.
I'm
You're
not
not going to see me
feeling
mad.
I'm not feeling mad. I'm feeling frustrated. There's a difference.
And I am annoyed because you're not listening. He's like, I'm sorry, bro. I just don't know what to do.
Oh my gosh. I knew quickly I did not think social work was my path. I learned even quicker before that children were not my path. I learned that very quickly. So what does you mentioned it. So what does a day schedule, the day in the life of an EVSC behavioral specialist look like?
Every day is different. And when I think I have my day mapped out, I don't. Because we're working with kids, with humans, there's just, you never know what you're going to get. So I explain my role in 3 different parts. I help deal with discipline. When a student gets in trouble, I'm a person that will go get them out of class or help them manage behaviors within the classroom. We talk about what got them in trouble and what skills they can learn to avoid getting in trouble in the future. And we like emotions play into that. Like, what was going through your mind when you thought this was a good idea to do? And then I also support them just with general support. We know that a student just doesn't come to school and sit in a math class ready to learn. Like they have no other parts about them, nothing else going on. Today's kids have a lot going on, and some kids bring stress from home. Maybe they had their head down in class because they stayed up all night caring for a younger sibling, or parents were fighting and that kept them up all night. Um, Maybe they stayed up playing video games, and then we can talk about how to manage your time and be a responsible student. But I help them, give them support and their kids. Like I said, they're still learning how to navigate life, how to manage their emotions, and I do a lot to teach them skills to deal with peer conflict, healthy relationships. They're starting to date now, um, figuring out who they are, what's important to them, how they relate to others. Um, and just if they need to talk, if they need to come in for a break and just take some deep breaths, we talk about what skills we can use to handle stress, um, how to communicate our needs effectively, what strategies they can use in relationships. And then the third thing I do is I help the teachers. And that could look like lending my skills to them and helping them manage behaviors within the classroom. I also do support. Sometimes I'll go into a classroom and like I'll work the room and make sure everyone's on task if it's an especially unruly classroom or there's 1 or 2 students that are off task, helping them refocus so that the teacher can teach. And I learn a lot from them. we all work together to help the whole student.
I love the teacher involvement. I think that's definitely a
Yes.
big piece to help with that. Because I think the teachers need the support probably from you as well, but also I think that's a good team when working with the kids. How everyone says high school's hard, but I think high school's hard if middle school does not go well. Like that's just like a foundation. Like you
Yeah.
said, bodies are changing, relationships are changing. That's a very, very developmental time. What age range is middle school?
So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and the age range is 11 to 14.
11 to 14. Do you see a lot of parent involvement? Are you in a school where parents are involved? Is it not? How's that? Do you see a lot of parent involvement?
We do have a lot of parent involvement, and I call home a lot. I love when I get to make positive phone calls home,
Oh,
especially for kids that get in trouble. I made a positive phone call home just last week on a student I've been working with that has gotten in a lot of trouble this year, but I've worked with her and she's working with me to get back on track, and she's done really well the last month. And she's not been in the office as much. She's not in the hallways. And when I called her mom said, "What now?"
yeah.
I was like, "Hold up. This is a positive call." And she like took an audible deep breath. And I love being able to turn things around and let parents know, like, your kid can improve. We
Yeah.
are here to support them. We love them. And parents like to hear from us, and we like to hear from them. I need their input. I want to know what's going on at home just as much as I want them to know what's going on here at school.
Oh, the positive phone calls home. I bet that does
Yes,
make a
I love
big
them.
difference. That's amazing. So you had mentioned
And
you
the kids love it too.
I
I'm
bet.
like, "Hey, I bragged on you today." They're like, "Really?"
Oh.
So it's just another layer of encouragement. Like, I see you doing well. And I called home and they just like light up, and like the kids love that.
Oh, that's awesome. I bet that has to be, yeah, such a good feeling.
Yeah.
Such a good feeling. What you'd mentioned, like you've always so the United Methodist Youth Home works with children who have gone through the court system and had to maybe be removed home for a little bit for whatever reasons. And you had mentioned you've always kind of worked with at-risk youth. What do you think are some factors that contribute to that label? Should that start being a different term, or what kind of considers an at-risk youth?
I think, yeah, I don't think it's the most positive term, because they may be at risk now, but ideally, through good things that can happen in their life, we can turn that around. They can turn that around. But factors that go into that are um, trauma, histories of abuse and neglect, kids either using substances themselves or witnessing or experiencing the effects of their caregivers using substances, um, growing up in poverty, not having their needs met, not having basic needs met. Um, Something I see a lot too is incarceration. Parents or caregivers who
Okay.
have been incarcerated and not present in their child's life. That takes a toll on the child, and sometimes leads the child to make similar choices.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a kid, from, like, 6th grade to graduate all the way through, and then, they get into high school and still stay in contact with you, or is that kind of a no-no? Do you kinda get to see what happens after they leave your presence?
So, since working in middle school, I've worked in two different middle schools. So, um, haven't gotten a chance yet to see them through high school, but kids do. I love getting emails from former students just to say hi. And they'll ask, like, "How have you been, Miss Miller?" Um, I have kids that are like, "Hey," I had one kid last week email, "I'm about to get expelled. Hey, how are you doing?" I was like,
No.
"Dang it, but hey, hi."
You gotta think, like, is there something like a seed you planted in that child where it's like you might be the only person they told that to. Like maybe that was their safety net or just a kid's mind saying, "Hey, I'm about to get expelled," but they still thought to send an email seeing how you were doing. I think planting that
Yeah, and
seed
this
and
was a
then
student I haven't seen in over a year.
really.
And the Methodist home kids, when I worked there, they would call sometimes like a couple years after just to say hi and let us know what they're doing.
Oh,
Um, and
that's
that's always an
amazing.
honor. That always makes me feel good that, they don't have to call us, they don't have to email,
Mm-mm.
but that tells me maybe they were listening when I was trying to guide them.
I read a statistic one time and just started again recently that it takes one positive adult relationship
Hmm.
to completely change an adolescent's trajectory. And you never know when you are
Yes.
that one person.
Yeah.
As many times as it probably doesn't feel like it, it doesn't show up right away, but it's that seed that's planted and you hope takes hold when it needs to.
Yeah. And I remind myself of that when I think kids are like, oh, they're not even listening to me. They're going to do what they want. And then they do call, and I have had kids call and say, "Hey, remember what you said to me?" And I'm like, vaguely. But we process things our own time. They might not have wanted to hear that information at the time, but they remember it. And that's what I've told other people who work in a similar field or work with kids. Like, they hear you.
Mhm.
They're just not ready to take it in yet.
Yeah, they process things in their own time. That's a good little reminder for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
That's a good little and on the other side, what's so unfortunate, when you can't control or change the environment they're in because they do see and
Right.
hear that stuff as well, and probably have more experiences with that negative than positive. So it's just crazy what they consume, especially when that
Yeah.
brain is changing so much and taking stuff in and repeated
Hmm.
behaviors. So what do you feel like affects today's kids the most? Is it still peers? Is it peers with social media? What are you seeing a lot affecting kids today?
Personally, I think social media and technology has had a huge impact on kids.
Mhm.
And it's interesting, anytime I have this conversation with a kid, they almost get like offended that I'm like, whoa, I'm not blaming, like, there's definitely some pros and cons here, but um, like when we were in school, if you had a bully, that bully stayed at school. They weren't hounding you on Facebook or Snapchat or
Weren't
Instagram.
constantly in your pocket, no matter where you
Yeah.
went.
The group chats out of control. Anytime a kid mentions a group chat, I'm like, step one, leave the group chat,
Mm.
block them. You don't have to participate. And it's like a digital drama circle, especially for the girls.
Mm.
And I think it's a lot of instant gratification.
Yeah.
So when they have to wait, if they don't get something right away, their brains are accustomed to like constant, like your reward center is constantly on fire.
I think that is the biggest thing is that instant gratification that kids are being
Hmm.
learned and taught.
And they struggle to communicate in person
Yes.
because their spelling is terrible, grammar's terrible. But they don't have to. We have autocorrect, and you can be anyone you want to be on the internet.
Yeah.
Um, and the girls, I see them like the body image and these like Instagram influencers. They think like I have to be a certain somebody or have these certain things for me to be cool and find my worth. I'm like, that's not it.
If there was constant photography of me available when I was in middle school, I know I would grow up and change to be a different person and be horrified. Because you see them every once in a while. Because back then it was,
Yeah.
those disposable cameras, not even digital ones. And if those were available all the time and could immediately be posted everywhere, that would be
Yeah.
horrifying. Horrifying. So I think those
Yeah.
studies, it'd be fascinating to see how it is changing generations with the immediate
Oh
gratification
yeah.
and then the social media and the bullying of it is awful,
Mm-hmm.
awful. And you just said you
Yeah.
see it more for females than the boys. Is what kind is the drama for the boys?
Basketball.
Okay.
Easy answer.
Okay. Wasn't expecting that. Gotcha. Oh,
I lost you.
that's gonna be good stuff.
You'll have to edit that part
Okay,
out.
we'll edit that part out. That'll be behind the scenes, special content.
No,
So
but yeah, the
basketball, what
girls,
does that mean?
yeah,
You don't hoop right?
they get in so many fights. As long as I've worked with any adolescent boy, it's basketball. They get in fights. They're competitive, even when they're just playing a game of basketball. Somebody fouled someone, or someone wasn't playing good enough, or someone pushed someone down in the game. I'm like, it's a physical contact sport. And then they get their feelings hurt and they start fighting.
Oh, okay. Hmm. So they complain about getting fouled, which is physical. Their feelings get hurt, and then they result to physical violent activity.
Yes.
Hmm.
Lots of recess drama with the boys over basketball.
Oh, recess. Yeah, I forgot they still did recess. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there common topics that come up with kids like more than others? Do you see it like more as a girl boy thing? Do you see it more as like a 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade thing? Does it all come down to them just wanting to be seen? What are some common topics you see coming up?
Definitely peer conflict with all of the students. I do see it. To me, it's really drastic, the maturity level of us, like from a 6th grade to 8th grade.
Oh, seeing the
Each
difference
year,
in
I
that.
can see them maturing and like chilling out a little bit each year. Um, but a lot of it's new. Like they're having to learn how to navigate friendships in different ways. And they're changing. So kids they might have been friends with in the last year, they've just changed. They've matured. And it's like, I tell them all the time, like, they don't have to go from friend to enemy. You just can decide not to be their friend. Um, the girls get wrapped up and he said, she said stuff. And then there's dating drama.
Middle school dating. Oh, I know how
Yeah,
important it is during that time.
it
It's so
is.
tough that they can't see that far in the future of it.
And I always I'm like, look, I know this is important. And I never tell them like, this doesn't matter. You're
Yeah.
only in 6th grade, because to
It's their
them it
world.
matters.
Yeah.
It's their whole
It's
life.
what, yeah, exactly.
So I just offer encouragement and I'm positive and help them see things realistically as best I can in the moment.
And you had mentioned it, knowing the difference between a healthy relationship, whether you want to call it girlfriend, boyfriend in middle school, what have you, they still need to know, even with friends, with teachers, with parents, friends, healthy relationships, I think is
And
such an important
unfortunately, a
thing.
lot of that isn't always modeled for kids at home.
Mhm.
They might see their caregivers handling conflict by verbal fights or physical fights. They might have their parents like yell at each other.
Yeah.
So um when they're in trouble, some kids perceive like my teacher's yelling at me. I'm like, no, they're getting on to you and trying to redirect you, but there was no yelling. Um and I teach a lot about what respect looks like
Mhm.
and how to receive and give respect.
Yeah.
The kids still have like an eye for an eye mentality. Like they disrespected me, so I disrespected them.
Yeah.
Like, did it help?
Having to learn
Like,
that
no.
cycle. Yeah, after the fact, getting to learn them before it takes place. It's nice when they see it afterwards, but always better when they see it beforehand. So much respect always for anyone who's worked in the school setting, because I don't know if you get to realize going into it how much of home comes in with the kid, and that's just something you will just never have control over or be able to like
Hmm.
have that participation in. And among the other things, like you have to meet your work standards and all that stuff, and dealing with tiny humans. Oh my goodness. So what are some struggles you see social workers facing? Have you had a lot come in and out of your school? I assume you're the only one in your school. Do you bounce around to other schools, or do you know you're
No,
at
I'm
one?
just at one
Okay.
school.
So what are some struggles you're seeing with that social workers face, and behavior specialists who work in the mental health field?
Um, I think some general social work struggles is there's a misconception on what we actually do. People, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that all you guys do is take people's kids away.
Mm-hmm.
And people link social workers with CPS.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of many jobs that we can have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's not what DCS does. They don't just go taking kids,
Yeah.
but everyone has their own maybe personal experience with that, and they're entitled to believe what they want to. But people don't know what all we can do. There's lots of different roles we can have, lots of different resources and support we can give people, education about mental health, substance use, employment. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
Um,
I think always across the board, just such
and
advocates for mental health.
yeah. Um, yeah, I think there's just a misconception on what social workers actually do. And I think with anything, a lack of understanding creates a lack of appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
We're definitely underpaid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we do a lot of different things to protect human life at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, but that's what a lot of teachers are underpaid. There's a
Yeah.
lot of positions who really do a lot for people and to ensure that people have good lives.
Mm-hmm.
We all need more money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amen to that. I 100% agree with that. Um, I was going to think of my question. Oh, how do the kids refer to you? Do they say, this is my behavior specialist, this is my therapist, this is our social worker? What title, I guess, do you have in the school system?
So the kids just call me Miss Miller, but my title is behavior specialist. But the kids aren't hung up on that. They just know they know what I do. Sometimes I have to remind them when I like go into a classroom to get a student like, oh, I'm like, guys, I don't just show up when someone's in trouble. Knock it off.
That's
But they
funny.
do. I know they know what I do.
Yeah.
And they're kids. They're not hung up on my title. They just know that's Miss Miller. I need her.
Yeah. That's nice. And I assume you don't have every kid in the school. Do you have like a caseload? How big does that kind of caseload stay? Are you supposed to check in with all the kids or just ones like maybe teachers refer?
So I can see any student in the school, and it's based on need. We have an idea of who needs more support than other students, but those needs change. I might have a student with high needs at the beginning of the school year, and they've learned some skills and strategies to manage things, and now they don't need as much support. And needs are always changing. Because the kids are always changing,
Yeah.
and a kid that might be doing fine the whole year, suddenly maybe something happened at home, or there's drama with a peer, or math is hard, so I'm trying to check out, and now I'm in trouble for not doing my work. So it's a lot of go with the flow.
Yeah. Which that's
I have
good. I
some
think
kids that I give more like structured support to, but I'm still available for um, just to support anybody.
you're a very good go with the flow person,
I
which I
try. It's
think
not always my natural.
I definitely think I agree would be necessary for the population that you're working with and all the things that are changing. Have you ever dealt with like a kid with like trauma, like they've lost a parent or a loved one or a friend or anything like that? I know going to school, we lost so many kids in our class, and I just didn't know if you're obviously there for that kind of assistance as well.
Sure. Um,
Maybe
I
even a
can think
teacher.
of a student last year who lost a parent. Um, so gave extra support to that student, and was able to call home and link them with some community resources for support, and making sure whenever there's a big loss, making sure that other staff members know too,
Yeah.
hey, this is going on. Please give this kid some extra love. When I worked with high school aged kids, it was more common for them to lose peers. By nature, the kids I worked with were sometimes involved in juvenile probation, which means they're out there breaking the laws or maybe not hanging with the best peer influences. And I've worked with a lot of kids involved with gangs.
Oh, yeah.
And there were some losses associated with that. Or just kids thinking, you know, you wouldn't believe how many kids have access to firearms these days.
Oh gosh, I can't imagine how
And
easy it is.
a kid with a gun is, like I said earlier, their brains aren't developed yet. And that impulsivity thinks, oh, you made me mad, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. Not being able to think of those long
So,
term, it's that instant gratification, "I'm mad and this is gonna make me feel better," but having no
mhm,
idea what those consequences are for their life and the life of others.
yeah,
That's so scary, and that's I didn't know if I wanted to go down that route, but just so many school shootings these days, and they're just kind of
yeah.
getting younger and younger. Working in a school, I didn't know if that was something that had ever crossed your mind, if you guys have a plan for that, like, how awful that would be.
Yeah, we actually do, they're called Alice drills. I forget the whole acronym, but we do.
It's a
We
long
prepare the
acronym for a
student.
safety thing. Alice,
Yeah,
ALICE. I'd hate for
yeah.
my name to be Alice too if I'm in school for an Alice drill.
But it's interesting because some kids are genuinely afraid and they ask me like, Miss Miller, what would we do if someone came in?
Oh gosh.
And they're actually afraid and they want to know, like, as the adults, like, what's going to happen? What are you guys going to do?
Yeah.
And it's about reassuring them, like, we have a plan. Like, this is why we do our drills, just like we know what to do if there's a tornado and we're prepared.
Mhm.
But other kids don't take it seriously. And if they're mad, they might say things like, oh, I'm going to shoot up this school. I'm like, yeah, you can't say that. And there's big consequences for that.
Are there? Do they take
Yeah.
that very seriously?
Kids can get expelled for that because that's not something to joke about. And I tell them, like, anyone can joke about that.
Mhm.
I can say I was just joking, and then the next day I can actually go do it.
Yeah.
So that's why we always take precautions.
That's good to know, but yeah, that is so scary. And those thinking of those kids looking at the adult for reassurance is a good point to point out as well.
Mhm.
So we'll kind of wrap up here. So I'll kind of do two in one. How important are boundaries and how do you practice self-care?
Boundaries are incredibly important. And professionally and personally, that was never something that I had given thought to until until grad school. And that was implemented into some of our coursework. And I have always been, I say I'm a recovered people pleaser. I've always been a person who wants to look out for others. I'm a natural caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I would have put myself out to make sure someone else has what they need or is happy or taken care of. And at work, similar, I used to be a workaholic and I would make sure everything was taken care of at work, but sacrificing my own personal time. And through all of that, I learned the hard way how important boundaries are. And after I learned that, I feel like my life changed. I'm happier, I'm calmer. I don't feel bad when I tell people no now and um or let them know, here's what I can do for you, but here's what I aren't able to do for you. And people understand, and I've learned if they don't respect my boundaries, that's a them problem.
Yeah. Oh,
And
absolutely.
also self-care is incredibly important, and I think that is, in a way, its own boundary. Like, um, Friday nights are so after I'm done with you, I'm having Lindsay night,
Heck yeah.
and that's my Friday night. After the work week is over, I'm I'm done being needed or asked to do things or asked to take care of things. I'm busy through the week, and Friday nights are time for me to just like be by myself, decompress,
That wind down
go
on
do something fun and
Friday. Yeah.
enjoyable, like run errands to Target or TJ Maxx.
It's Lindsay night.
Do
You don't
all
have
the
to fool
fun stuff.
anyone. They don't have to be errands.
Yeah.
Ah.
And then I go get I go treat myself to a good dinner and it's takeout because I'm coming home to get my PJs to watch my shows.
Yes. To be at
And if
home.
anyone asks if I have plans Friday night, I'm like, yeah, with myself.
I do.
Catch you tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And that is such a good feeling too, and probably a huge, I don't want to say accomplishment, but a big step for you for someone who was a past people pleaser. Because to be able to say, yes, I am busy and it's with me to have this moment of winding down, that has to be huge. But you feel so much better after you do it.
Yeah. And it helps me be a good employee and a good friend, a good daughter. I have to be able to take care of me so I can take care of other people.
Absolutely. And that's in any role when you deal with people, but so much so in the kind of profession you are in the mental health
Absolutely.
profession. Boundaries is like the number one thing I took away from schooling with me. Like you have to be able to set those lines for yourself. You have to.
And it's something I'm already teaching the middle schoolers.
Yeah.
And I like when they repeat, like, okay, Miss Miller, boundaries, I know. I'm like, I'm glad you know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what is something that the hip kids say now?
Oh my
That's their
gosh.
lingo that you can educate us on. Are things still flame? Are things still fire?
No, they're not.
What?
So I don't know. This is always like a funny but weird question to me because I hear them say these things every day and it's like normal language to me. But these are some things I've heard that our kids are saying recently. They'll tell us like quit chatting. That means like quit talking, like you're yapping. You're talking too much.
Okay.
Clock that T.
Clock that T. Does that mean they're going to
Clock
hit
that T.
somebody?
No. That means like you told somebody.
Off?
Or you could
told
just
them
say,
off?
oh, here, there's a hand motion clocked.
I wouldn't know. I'd be like, the
Like
time is 4:45.
if I walked up to you and told you what was up and my friend was like, clocked.
Burn, like you just got
You got
burned.
clocked.
Is that like the equivalent of you just got burned? Or she
Yeah.
told you? Okay. Okay, that was.
If the kids are in trouble and they're like in the office, like waiting to talk to the principal, like, I'm cooked, bro. I'm cooked. I'm done. That means like it's a wrap. It's over. I'm done.
Okay. But it's not a burn if someone's like, I'm going to cook you. That's not a thing? Okay. Okay.
Don't try this at home, MT.
Is that something the kids say? Or don't
No,
ever
that's something I'm telling you.
Don't go into a conversation with children.
Do not try this at home.
I avoid conversation with youth at all
I
costs.
like this, like if your outfit is good, you might say, okay, slay. Or
I do like a sleigh.
You could say,
I do like a
I've
sleigh.
always loved the sleigh. That's kind of like a reinvented
Yes.
term.
I've always
Or
loved.
you might say like that person ate, like they ate it up. That's good. Like you did a good job.
Oh, they ate it. Okay, that's
You could
a good job.
You could be like, she ate that test up, that you got A+.
So I could be like, you ate this podcast.
I left no crumbs.
Okay. Okay. Saute it, girl. I would just start like on the fly trying to make things up. I'm very limited with my interactions with youth, and it's on purpose. They've got to be able to, from the ages of being able to hold their old necks up to before they can start talking, is like my real short window of me interacting.
I love
with
being
children.
able to use the language back to them and like,
oh,
where'd you learn that? Who taught you that?
I bet they just think. Do they think like they're using it over their head, or is that just their language and they don't understand when adults don't get it?
They think we're all stupid, and I love to check them and be like, I know what you're talking about. Stop it. They're like, no, we were just doing this. I'm like, no, you're not. And then they'll start laughing. They're like, oh, you right.
Did we have a different language growing up?
We did have slang.
Slang's a good term. Was it this significant? And like,
I don't think it was.
The connections
but
from
maybe
what
it was, and we just didn't realize it.
To what it means, I feel like is so far different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was texting a very new agent who's very, very young, and I sent something to him, and they sent back, heard, thank you. And I had to go to someone, and I'm like, I assume this means they understood what I said. Like, do they need me to call them? Like, what does this mean?
They heard you.
Okay. Wait, it was a text message, so you didn't. It should be, I read that. Got it. Thanks.
Read. Saw.
Could just be thumbs up, but emojis are great. I was like, heard. Like, nothing about this communication was through volume through the ear. So.
You could just ask me. I'm like a walking urban dictionary.
Oh my gosh, I not only love your text because you are just always sunshine and so bright, but you've got a comment on there. I'm like, this has got to be good because I have no idea what you just said. I have no idea.
It makes me laugh. Like, I'll use their language too because it makes me laugh.
It is. You had posted you were in this beautiful black gown and you said, "Can't find Nana" or something. No, and you're not looking.
Now this is not podcast appropriate, MT.
Okay, I'll edit this out. But I saw that. I said, "Oh, she looks great. That must be a nice." She must be feeling herself with that comment.
I was. Just know I was.
Okay, so it's good. You look fantastic. You were gorgeous, but it's not.
Well, thank you.
It's not. We don't have a rating on our podcast. Is it a Drake song?
It was.
Ooh, is it a Kendrick Lamar song? I know it wasn't a
It
Taylor
was a rap.
Swift song.
It was a rap song lyric that indicated that no one's like me, and you can't find no one like me because that's how I felt in that dress.
Yeah, you were gorgeous. Okay, you slayed.
Thanks,
slayed.
girl.
You ate up.
Slay.
You ate up that event.
I did.
I want to do clocked. I'm gonna go to
clocked.
I seriously thought they'd be asking for the time.
No, just walk around telling people what's up, be like clocked,
and then just walk off,
and then walk away.
I'm just gonna start saying just new words, just confidently. Skillet.
You can make up your own slang. I like to make up words.
Yeah, I like that too. Well, awesome. Well, I really appreciate your stories. Thank you so much for what you are doing with the relationships you're creating in the world, in these kids' lives. And you truly, truly are doing fantastic things and are very much meant to be on this path. So we will wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening today. Be sure to follow us and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Stay connected with us on social media. We want to hear from you. Let us know what you learned from today's episode. Use the hashtag KickItUpANotchPodcast. And until next time, let's keep working together to kick it up a notch in everything that we do. Thanks for tuning in to Kick It Up a Notch. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Until next time, keep reaching higher and kicking it up a notch.